Bada bing, bada bing. And we are live for Triple T number 151. Somewhere out there are some rum aficionados going, hey, that's a good number. Other people are like, what? Anyhow, on with the introductions. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions and helping people find the solutions they are looking for. I get the privilege of helping people with all sorts of stuff, ranging from anxiety, depression, PTSD, phobias, relationship challenges. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. I offer corporate coaching. I teach a lot of different classes, one for a lot of specific ones, like for real estate, one for car sales, one for hospitality servers, all the way up to 3-star Michelin. What else? I've got a website, got a new one that is getting closer and closer every day, so you guys will have to check it out. But the old one's still up. Feel free to check that out before it's gone. The web address is theTSWB.com. THETSWB.com. That's right. And I offer a free, yes, free, no charge to you, a free 30-minute consultation where that's your time to spend with me and discuss any of the challenges that you may be facing. And my promise to you is, if I'm a fit, I will let you know. If I am not a fit, I will also let you know, and I will do my best to find you the person that will fit the best, because I want to make sure that you get the answers to the challenges and solutions that you are dealing with. Next up, time to introduce the tie of the week. For those of you that are new to Triple T or watching this recording for the first time, yes, every week I have been wearing a different tie out of my collection. That is how many I have. So this week, brought to you by some of our favorite characters. Let me know if you recognize any of these crazy cats. Oh yeah, look at there, look at there, look at there.
That is a good one.
Yep, I've gotten lots of compliments on this one. I wanted to save a couple. Now we're down to 7 left for this year. 6 now. Yes, that's how close we are to the end of the year. Got that done. Anybody yet? For those of you that are watching on YouTube, hi Mom. Yes, my mother tunes in to watch her boy teach and do what I do. Love you, Mom. And for those of you that are on YouTube, please do all the YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave comments, and then comment on your comments and comment on other people's comments, because I like to read comments. Yes, it's all about me right there. Also, please feel free to share this with people, not for my glory, but if you know somebody, if you hear a topic or something and you think it will help somebody, please share it. There's too much hurt and stuff going on in this world, and a lot more than there needs to be. What else? Questions. And for those of you that are new to Triple T, the way we're going to run it is the first hour I have 3 topics that I've come up with that I'm going to do my best to get through in my hour. And then the second hour is open mic, open platform to anybody on the call. So please, if you're watching this recording or you're watching live on YouTube, join us. We always like having different points of view, different questions, and it's free. Yes. Anybody got anything they would like to share from the last 7 days since we were here? Mark.
Yeah, I found myself quoting you today, uh, young man, talking about relationships, and I started quoting little pieces of PPP, and always be testing. So I was like, well, I got to tell PJ that. Yeah, so I found myself, like I said, guiding him using your protocol.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That's why I share it here, because if it works for one more person, I'm blessed, and anything beyond that is extra happiness. Anybody else got anything they would like to share? Lenora.
So this group means so much to me. One of the things that TJ did not mention that he has a skill set in is helping people with public speaking. And I actually had my second TEDx last week, which I'm so excited about. And TJ had helped me with the first one, and then he had also helped me with the second one. And there's so many insights that I wanted to share, but I definitely wanted to make a note with that. And then also what I talked about was something that this group heard first. Many months ago, TJ had asked me to cover Triple T, and I got to share what I had come up with. I think it was like that week or something at one point. I got to share the shift protocol. You were all the ones that heard it here first. And so I ended up crafting my speech entirely around the shift protocol and helping people shift from their shameful thinking to supportive thinking, from their hurtful thinking to their helpful thinking. And it was a very fun week. I had a whole week to prepare and flip it around, and I was actually able to record it, and I shared it with TJ, and he was able to give me incredible insights, which ultimately ended up shifting not the content, but the delivery. And that was incredibly important for me, because when people would critique me in the past, when I would ask for their feedback, I always took it as that it wasn't good enough, or that I would get really upset and really hurt about it. And in the one-to-one change work that we all do, I have been able to reframe what people share and who can be trusted and who can really offer their insights that say, I like this and I would like to see more of this. And especially the amazing Holly Mignosi was very famous for that. TJ had introduced me to her, and she was my TEDx coach the first time. And sadly, she is no longer here, but thankfully she's out in the ethers. Yes. And when she would critique, she would say, I liked this and I would like to see more of this, rather than saying this was good, this was bad. So this was another way of shifting my thinking of when people would share their feedback that said, hey, I like this. I would like to see more of this, only because this might feel a little bit off. If anyone ever wants feedback on whatever they're doing, I would like to simply share and encourage people to go to not a committee, not a panel of people. Just go to one or two people that you really trust and really value their insights and what they will share. Because if I shared it with 10 other people, I would have gotten 10 different opinions. I shared my recordings with TJ, and then also with 3 women that were in the speaking group that I was a part of previously with Holly. And there's about 20 women in that group, and I only chose 3. And it was because they know what they're looking for. They also know how I speak, how I share, what I'm delivering. And what was really helpful for me was to see again their feedback that said they were very specifically my target audience. And those 3 women all said the recommendations and the insights that TJ had shared with me they all exactly lined up and they said, nope, this one resonates. And that one that resonated was the one that I delivered. So that is all to say, careful who you trust, always be testing, but also allow the people that you trust to support you and to recognize that it doesn't mean that you're right or that you're wrong. It just means that you're doing something here and they'd like to see more of something in this area. Those are my thoughts.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you for your incredible insight and support.
Mark.
I know, again, the shift protocol is a little bit more sophisticated than what I originally learned, but I've been able to relate it. And I was just curious if I'm on the right track when I think that, again, the shift protocol is like a polarity exercise, and in a more primitive form, but that and various practitioners teach a polarity exercise. Are those two the same, or are they similar?
The one that I had shared was very specifically, and I'm going to put it here in the chat for us. This is one that I created based off of things that I had found helpful and questions that I asked myself to help shift my thinking. And very specifically, what it is to spot the negative thought. So we have SHIFT. So we want to spot the negative thought and we want to hear it. And what was truly pivotal about this was, because you're thinking, well, of course I hear it. Hear it as in, whose voice is it? Who is saying this? Very specifically, because if we think I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough, sometimes it might be us. Other times it might be an echo that we picked up from somebody else, that we quite literally learned it. And I really noticed this not only with myself, but with my clients when I ask them to tune in and I say, okay, well, whose voice is it? Really tune in and notice, is it your voice or does it kind of seem like somebody else's voice and you just took it on? And a lot of them will share, oh my gosh, it's not my voice, that's somebody else's voice. And that was extraordinarily helpful for me because I recognized, oh, I really wasn't saying it. I was saying it, but it wasn't mine. It didn't belong to me. Then it's I to investigate the impact so that we take the thought out and we put it on the table and we can be the detective that says, okay, how is this hurting me? How is this helping me? This is serving me. What is the way that it's serving me? How is this protecting me? How is this keeping me from feeling like I'm putting myself out there and being vulnerable, but also what is this stopping me from doing? And then we have frame it, which is to frame it in a different light. How else might I see this thought? How else might I look at it from a different perspective? Where's the evidence? So if we think I'm a failure at everything, so we spotted it, we heard it, we investigated the impact. It's not letting me do anything, but it's also making sure that I don't fail at anything. Look for contradicting evidence. Okay, well, I've made it to age 39, so I can't fail at everything. Maybe I've started to succeed in some areas. Where else can I succeed? And then to trade it in. So maybe I'm not failing at everything. Maybe, possibly, I'm learning. Maybe this process of learning feels really slow to me. Maybe I can find ways to increase the speed so that I can feel more successful. So that very specifically is how I share the shift protocol and the examples that I use. And in short, the abridged version of my second TEDx. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Awesome. You heard it here, folks. And if you would like more information on that, feel free to reach out to Lenora. She's awesome at it. So, anybody else got anything they'd like to share from the last 7 days? No? All right. Well, I guess we will jump into the topics of the evening. And tonight's topics are telling stories, bony fingers, and sugar season. What was that, Lenora?
Bony fingers.
Bony fingers.
I read that and I'm like, what?
Oh, well, we'll get to that pretty soon. You'll find out what the what. Telling stories. Let's dive right into it. We've heard stories, and stories have been passed down for generation to generation to generation. It was a way of keeping history alive, family stories, all the above. And have any of you witnessed a very good storyteller? Kind where you're just like, oh, tell me a story again, please? And how many of you have heard a really poor storyteller where you're like, can we get to the point? Can we? And when they're done, you're like, that was a waste of 15 minutes of my life. And I bring these up not so that you can sit there and think about all these people, but in your reaction, when I asked, have you ever had or been around a really good storyteller? I'm sure it brought a smile to a lot of faces because you're like, oh. Not realizing that in the act of telling stories that effectively, in essence, when you boil it down, they were doing a form of hypnosis. And it's amazing how even in 2024, the amount of people that I talk to, that when they hear the word hypnosis are like, oh, no, are you hypnotizing me now? Oh my gosh, oh no. And I'm like, stop it. You've watched too many TV shows. You've watched too many movies. You're waiting for me to pull out the pocket watch. And within a second, you're like, and drooling on yourself, out cold, and I can reprogram. No. And then I start telling those people what other things are hypnotic. Music, movies, storytelling, and some of the hypnotic inductions that are so easy that you've heard over and over and over. Such as, have you ever? Wait, what? That's, yes. Or, how about this famous one? Once upon a time. Very few people understand the hypnotic power of that simple phrase. Yet, we all have our favorite movies and stories that started off with, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was, boom, and here we are, listening in, seeing all of these images pop up in our imagination. Straightforward hypnosis. Then we have the other side. The stories we tell ourselves. How good of a storyteller are you when it comes to yourself? And Lenora touched on part of keeping track of those stories that we tell ourselves, because a lot of clients that we work with didn't realize they were telling themselves stories. They were simply just saying stuff. Oh, I just suck at that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I've just got bad luck. Oh, I could never be like that. I could never do that. I'm not that smart. I could never play sports like that. And we tell ourselves these stories. No offense, they're sucky stories. I've heard lots of them. And they rank right up there with, no offense, but when they're done, I don't feel better. That's why I am an agent of change, because if you telling me the story makes me feel that way, and you've gotten used to listening to it, you've listened to that story so many times that you can just speak it out easily. It just flows right out. And yet it's your story. You can decide what story you want flowing out of your mouth. You have to use, I'm so glad Lenora brought up the shift protocol. What a perfect segue. And we didn't plan it. So, divine intervention. Yes, you need to hear what you're saying. And trust me, people that are around me will tell you. I call them out on it all the time. If I hear limiting belief stories, I will literally call them, including mom. Right, mom? Love you. But yeah, there are some stories that need to be changed, upgraded. You are the writer, the director, the producer, the lead role, the star, and the viewing audience, all wrapped into one. And you have a short time to make a story, a movie, a video worthy of the amount of time that you are investing in your body on this planet. And so when I'm working with clients and they will tell me these limiting beliefs, one of the first things I like to ask them is, wow, who told you that? What? Well, that horrible story that just came out your mouth about you, that you said, who told you that? Who told you that was true? Well, and one of the little things that I like to ask people when they say stuff like that, I will say, close your eyes and imagine that comes out of a small speaker suspended in the air around you. Point to where that speaker is located. Anybody want to take a guess at where 80 to 90% of where people point? Yeah, Lenora.
Somewhere close to their ear and tends to be upwards.
Yes, it's almost all the time it's up here. Mark.
Yeah, that's, like I said, that's when you're a kid, the voice authority is usually the parental voice of you.
Yep.
I will add, and I hesitate to add it, but one side of your body is the feminine and one side of your body is the masculine, as in the masculine energy for me is often on, I tend to be reversed. It's often on my right side. So when I hear that, it's not necessarily from a man. of an authority figure. It is from a masculine authority figure. And there is a difference. So a man can be masculine, but a woman can also be in their masculine, especially when they're in the authority position of children.
Especially nowadays with the amount of single parent houses where mom has to be mom and dad. But yeah, I get so many people that point because, again, as Mark pointed out, it's the peers, the parentals, the adults that are making sure that you realize that you can't do that, you can't do that. That's not who we are. What do you think? Money grows on trees. Where'd you get that idea from? Just because they did it, you know, if Johnny jumped off a cliff, would you? Da 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 da. And all of these things. Now, for you parents out there feeling bad, it is part of growing up. But for those of you that are parents now or growing up, your parents did the best they could at the time with the tools, the knowledge, and the energy they had available to them. If they could have done better, they would have. Once you turned 18, you no longer get to blame your life, your circumstance, all the above on where you grew up, who you grew up with, what your income status was, what your zip code was. None of that. You are able to make choices. And the further you get away from 18, the more separated you are from having to keep those stories that were handed to you as a kid. And we hear about these stories all the time. You know, that I grew up dirt poor. And or even more famous, the siblings that came from an alcoholic household. And one becomes very successful, never drinks. And they ask him, well, how'd you make it to be so successful from where you started? And they say, well, look at where I came from. How could I do anything else? And their sibling is an alcoholic who can't keep a job and is in trouble all the time. And they go, what's with you? And they go, well, look where I came from. How could I be anything else? Nothing more than stories and perception. And some just skate right through the center, trying to figure out what they want to do. And a lot of it is conflicting stories. And stories that are just provocative enough to keep them comfortably in the comfort zone. Nice place to stay, but nothing grows there. And so as 2024 starts dwindling down and 2025 is just around the corner, where do you see yourself from last New Year's? What kind of stories are you going to be able to rewrite and adapt so that you can start off 2025 with a fresh set of eyes? And by the way, You don't have to wait until New Year's to start changes. Tuesdays are a good day. Thursday's a great day. Mondays are a great day to start over. Lenora. Muted. There you go.
There we go. I wanted to add that if you don't know what your stories are and what you want help with, I highly encourage people to have conversations with people who specialize in change work. And for the longest time, there was these thoughts that were like, but it's true. It's true. This is really what it feels like. And it quite literally feels very true for you because it is very true for you. You're feeling it. When you get to have a conversation with someone who is wanting to help you shift, wanting to help you look at it from another angle, it's not lying to yourself. It's not putting on rose-colored glasses, and it's not going, there's no weeds. There's no weeds. It's none of that crap, which I think the self-help community gets that stigma of, oh, just think a positive thought. And I did mention this in my speech too, because it's not about that. It is about sharing it, putting it out there, as in, this is a very real situation for me. Can't you see it? And you're talking about it. When you can talk about it with somebody who is not judging you, who is not shaming you, who is quite literally looking at the same thing you are, going, yeah, I see that. I see that. Okay, we're looking at it. And you go in together. Massive change happens because you have such tunnel vision when you're the one that is feeling it, and you're the one that's holding on to that story, and you're the one that knows this is true, and it is true because it's very true for you, and it's been going through, and it's really intense. When you can talk about it and look at it and explore it and feel through all of that, massive, massive, massive change happens. And there aren't quite the words that I'm coming up with other than change, other than shift, and not pretending like it's not there. But it is incredibly powerful to be able to see it from another perspective and to have somebody help you see that and see it from another perspective and look to explore a new story, a possible story.
Awesome. Thank you for that input. Mark.
Well, again, one of the reasons why I use stories clinically is stories aren't judged. Judgment shuts down when people use the 5 most powerful words. Said them earlier, I think. Let me tell you a story. Judgment goes away. So, and that's when, it get, and I'm sure we do the same thing with the stories we tell ourselves. But I was thinking that, again, but that basic truth is, when you tell a story, in a session, people don't judge stories. But thought the scroll just occurred to me that says, well, we probably don't judge the stories that we tell ourselves either.
Yep. And where's another place that a lot of people hear stories? This just in on the 6 o'clock news. Let us tell you a story. And we oftentimes hear one side of the story, including the stories that are in our head. Is it a 6 or is it a 9? It depends on which angle you look at it. All of this to say, as Lenora put it, take the time, reach out to agents of change, if you're not happy, if you're not where you want to be or where you would like to be, reach out to see if there are some stories that you're telling yourself that are holding you back. The amount of stories I've uncovered for my relationship clients that they had no idea were even there. And when we uncovered them, it was like, well, no wonder you're having a little challenge meeting the right person. Because you keep telling yourself these limiting beliefs, these limiting stories regarding relationships. And the biggest, you don't know what you don't know. That's why stories are so easy to believe. Think about some other stories. If you're from Minnesota, probably heard about Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. Oh, yes. Paul Bunyan could be able to cut down 10 trees in a swipe of his axe. Well, if that wasn't enough, then he could cut down a whole forest at one time. And yet those stories were handed down through generations. All identities. Any other inputs, ahas, epiphanies on this before we move on to the next topic? Yes, no, maybe so.
Good stuff, though.
On to bony fingers. Anybody ever heard that phrase before? Mark and I were discussing it just before we got started. It actually came up, popped in my head because there was a song by Hoyt Axton. And I would love to play it for you guys, but we all know that because this is on social media, YouTube, blah, 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 if I play any part of it that's recognizable, it will be a copyright issue, and they will cause me some challenges. But it is a cute song about a couple that are going through some tough times. And finally they go, you work your fingers to the bone, and what do you get? Bony fingers. Bony fingers. And the reason this popped in my head was I had a client recently who had limiting beliefs about income, money, and work, and believed, was taught, trained that if you don't work really hard for your money, you're lazy and you're selfish. And when we worked through that process and they realized that they had witnessed a number of people that were pretty well to do. And when I asked them, well, were they working like 90 hours a week to be that wealthy? Well, no. Did they ever go on vacation? I mean, well, yeah, lots of them. So let me get this right. They're very wealthy. They didn't work in a factory 90 hours a week. And they took more than one vacation a year. Yep. And so we reframed it and realized that it was a story of the times. You have to work hard for your money. You have to work hard for your money. And yet, I pointed out one really good book that I liked about it. Think and Grow Rich. Not work 90 hours a week and grow rich. Not kill yourself in a factory and grow rich. Not plow the field by hand like they did in the 1300s and grow rich. Think and grow rich. And yeah, Elijah, great, amazing book. If you haven't read it, if you're not familiar with it, definitely recommend it, if nothing else, to understand the other ways of thinking about income and money. Napoleon Hill, when he wrote that, spent a number of years going, yeah, great, right, Elijah? Elijah put in the comments. For those of you on YouTube, you can't see the comments. He said, I read it when I was 35 and I was so mad that someone didn't make me read it at 15. It really should be a school requirement. Like, as soon as you're old enough to kind of grasp the idea of it, it should be required reading. Lenora. Yep. Allergies again.
So today I had a client and I shared with them something that I had received when I was in 6th grade. And I can put it here in the chat. And it's this amazing thing that, I kid you guys not, it came on a hot pink note card. And this professional speaker that had come to my school had said to us, read this morning and evening. First thing when you wake up in the morning, last thing before you go to bed, read it and watch your life change in 21 days. And I kid you not, read it, found it to be exactly true. And in 21 days, I had felt better. I had noticed positive things. And I'm talking like I was 12, guys. And it was really, really, really powerful for me. So I had ended up memorizing this and I stuck this note card in my bedside drawer. And there it lived for the next 10, 12 years of my life. And somewhere along the line, I went on a cleaning spree and tossed it out. Thankfully, I had memorized it. And that is what I actually put in the chat. Shared that with you to share this with you. What I found really helpful was I had shared this with my client. My client is quite young. And we went line by line, reading this and then peeling it apart. What did it mean to them? What it was their perspective on it. And what was really cool was she had her own thoughts, her own experience with this. And as we were going line by line, I was weaving in what she was saying along with a new perspective, which ultimately gave me a new perspective. Especially because now if we're talking about somebody who's thinking grow rich, when I first heard that, there might be a little bit of a cynical person still living within me. When I first had heard that, I literally heard, that's for other people. That makes more sense for other people. That's not me. I have to work hard. I'm not lucky. That's those people. That's not me. And that was also, now hindsight, she's always 2020. That's what I was taught. That was the story that I was taught. So for anybody reading, anybody hearing this and noticing some commonalities of that's for those people or doubting that, pick up the book, just take a look at it and challenge yourself. How else might I mean this? How else might I look at this? What's another way that I can interpret this? And I often do that with affirmations. Affirmations are never, somebody else's affirmations don't always resonate with me. So I will take them and I will think, okay, well, what would I have to believe to be true for this to fit? Or how else might I say this? And taking it and reworking it. Because honestly, when you shift your inner dialogue, massive things shift around you. So be the detective of your thoughts. It's okay to question them. It's okay to look at them. It's okay to have conversations about them. So thank you for the tip on that book, because I did not have the action pack one or the workbook version. I only had the original. So thank you.
Yeah, very welcome. Holly.
Loving all of this. Sorry, I know a lot of people want to talk, but just a couple things that are popping into my head listening to all this too is so two things. One, it reminds me of my Excel teacher. Well, I call him my Excel teacher. It was all of Microsoft Office, but he had a phrase that he used all the time, and he says, "You always have a choice. You can either work harder or work smarter," and it was so true. A lot of times it was, put 15 extra minutes into getting your formulas clean, and you could save yourself 40 hours down the road. It's amazing how much that is. And then there's another, I think it's in the book, Deep Work by Cal Newport. But they talk about, now, some jobs literally are just, you need somebody to put in the time. So like maybe if you're a security guard or a cashier or something like that, like 90% of the job is just having a person in space. But for all other jobs, most people have maybe, if they practice doing deep work a lot, maybe 4 hours of good work in them per day. And one of the interesting things they've discovered is, and it might even be less than that if you don't practice it a lot, once again, and also if you could get to that sweet spot that you're in flow, if you want to look into flow, you could be up to 500% more productive in the hours that you're in flow, which means that you could get your whole week's work done in one day if you work 5 days a week. But what they've discovered is that when you spread your work out longer than those, 4 peak crucial hours, first of all you do is you work slower to fill up the time. What ends up happening in business often is you just go to meeting after meeting that didn't need to happen, as an example. But the other thing that they've shown is all those extra hours that you're working actually makes you get less done. So it's not even just that you don't get anything done. Working those extra hours makes those hours you could have been productive less valuable. So I just always thought that was an interesting thing when you think you got to work your fingers to the bone. Just keep that in mind of, am I making it so that my next hour when I, wake up tomorrow morning that could have been awesome, that I could have gotten a ton of things done, am I going to make it useless because I wore myself out and now my body and my brain aren't ready to do anything more?
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's where I also brought up with my client that some of the most productive people are also the ones that take the most vacations. And they were like, what? I went, a vast majority of the world looks at the United States and thinks we are off our rocker, because we've been trained that you get 2 weeks off a year. And Europe is like, you're nuts. No, we're taking like 5 weeks off a year to start. And that's if you don't have a kid. And the studies are coming out now. They're finding out that the reason why the people that take more vacations are more productive is because of what Holly just pointed out. While on vacation, they get to recharge, they get to re-energize, they get to think about things in a different manner. They get out of the workplace. And I'm not talking staycations. Yeah, I took 2 weeks off for a vacation. What'd you do? I worked on my backyard. No, you need a vacation. See the seas, feel the feels, smell the smells, taste the tastes. See something different. Get away. Give yourself an excuse, a reason to work so that you can save up some money for your next vacation. I'm a vacation addict, and I have no problem with that. Because one of the sayings from the travel club was travel is the only thing you can buy that makes you richer. When you start seeing different stuff, meeting different people, trying different things, your life changes. That's how it works. And so you don't have to work your fingers to the bone to make money. Because in the end, all you get is bony fingers, bony fingers. So if you guys want to have fun after Triple T, pull up Bony Fingers by Hoyt Axton. It's a cute little song with a very catchy tune. And that gives me 8 minis to fit in our final topic. Any other input ahas, or you guys want to ask questions in hour 2? Good, because here comes sugar season. Anybody want to guess what this is in regards to? Take a guess?
The holidays?
The holidays.
Oh no.
And I had to bring this up as a reminder because we've already had our introduction to sugar season. Halloween. That's right. Let your kids get hyper jacked on a full year's worth of sugar and wonder why all of a sudden, is it allergy season, or are we going into, especially those of us in the United States, and I believe England as well, wintertime, so we are getting less sunlight for our bodies, and we're doing these get-togethers, whether friends or family or work parties or all the above, and there's more sugar available than any other time of the year, and more reasons or excuses to eat more than any time of the year, be around other people, less sunlight. The temperatures are not what we would normally say are optimal, favorable, enjoyable. And so a lot of people are kind of like doing as the bears do a little hibernating. And the pounds come on. Depression may set in. A lot of people get depressed over the holidays. Maybe they know everybody else is being invited to family functions, and they don't have the family. maybe the matriarch or the patriarch has passed. Nobody grabbed the baton and kept up with the family traditions. I know that when my mother's mother passed or was no longer able to host, we didn't really have anybody that picked up the baton and held the big family Thanksgiving get-togethers and the Christmas get-togethers. And I've got pictures. When you're a kid, Grandma's house seems way bigger than when you're an adult. And yet in Grandma's little ranch style, we had 3 bedrooms upstairs and my uncle had the basement. And yet for Thanksgiving and Christmas, we only had 270 people there sleeping, staying, feeding out of a kitchen this big. And I remember sleeping on the couch, sleeping on the floor, because everybody was there. Every bed was maximum capacity, and one bed. Well, the bathroom downstairs was my uncle's, and you kind of had to be a dude to want to use that one. So he kept it clean, but it was in the basement. And it was kind of an unfinished basement, and it was kind of an unfinished bathroom, and yeah. All this to say that even with the way those were, we got together, and yet there will be people we have to remember that don't have that option. And so look around the neighborhood, look around the workplace, keep an eye on your friends, your family, and if you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people that don't have a place to go, maybe you reach out to them, and maybe you find one of the houses to host, or you all get together to do something. But also be aware of the sugar intake, the food intake, compared to your normal activities. Now, don't get me wrong. I like me a good Thanksgiving Day spread. I will eat till I'm ready to go night-nights at about 2 in the afternoon. And then I'll wake up and I'll do it all over again, because I can. But I also have become pretty famous for avoiding all the sugar stuff. My favorite dessert was always more meat and taters, and so, yes, Lenora.
I'm going to offer a shameless plug here because I've created a program that's called Curb Your Cravings during the holidays. And it is all about how you can feel calm and you can feel in control and you can have the freedom that you want around food, especially during the holidays. And it is going live next, ideally on Monday. So I'm very excited to share that. And the webpage for it is done. So really it's just setting up the back stuff. But otherwise, everything is nearly like 90% good to go. So if you're looking for information, send a message or leave a comment in the chat.
Please. Yes, it is that time. And if you know somebody who's struggling with this, especially during the holidays, please share the information. holidays are supposed to be the happy times, and it seems like the holidays are the pendulum swings. You're either really happy or really not. And I like to keep that swing kind of one-sided. Baseline, really happy. Baseline, really happy. And that brings us up to the top of the first hour, which I want to thank everybody for sticking around so far. Now it's time for the second hour, and as I told you earlier, second hour is open platform, open mic. Anybody on the call is welcome to ask a question, bring up a topic, and all the people on the call get to answer first because I like to learn as well. And if I feel there's something I can add to it, that's when I will add my 2 centavos. So, who's got the first question of the evening?
That's a great question.
It is a great question. Who's got a great answer?
Something that we can play with.
Yes. And if you're watching this for the very first time, we go through this pretty much every week. I'll ask, and everybody's being the polite chipmunk, if you remember that cartoon. No, after you. No, I insist after you. No, please after you. No, terribly. I just wanted after you, please. Yes.
I don't know if Mark was popping on.
Somebody, please.
You can go, Mark.
I was just, that it popped up when I was watching something else, and talking about how, people are walk around most of the time on autopilot, and seen some videos. About 85% of the time we're on autopilot, just going through our day, and and we're in, or somewhere else when we're driving or whatever. So we're kind of on autopilot a lot. And then we were talking about, there was something else about how kids always seem to be in the moment. They're always happy. They're always running around. They're always in a state of wonder. And the thought occurred to me, and I wanted everybody's input on it, was maybe because kids haven't developed, especially very young kids, that they don't have an autopilot. Okay, so I just wanted everybody's input. Maybe that's why kids are always in the moment. Kids are always happy, and could be one of the contributing factors, or it could be a main factor. The question is, why are kids so happy? Is, well, maybe they're not on autopilot like the rest of us. Wanted people's input on that.
Great question. Okay, who's got input on this? Holly.
I've got a bit of input. I think it's a very interesting observation. I think that's definitely part of it. There's several layers to this. First of all, I will say, when I look at autopilot, there's 2 sides I think to it. One is definitely don't spend too much time in it. But the other thing is how brilliant are our brains that it can go on autopilot. But definitely the reason it happens is because we've created very elaborate scripts for ourselves. And we've had to our brain has had to look for patterns. It's had to look for what works. And then it just runs it's kind of like a computer. I press F4 and such program runs, but the program actually has to be written in order to do it. I don't know if I'd say, I think autopilot is about conserving resources. And one thing about
So we can think about other things.
yes. One thing about kids that they have that unfortunately adults don't have, that maybe we could go a little bit easier on ourselves, is they don't have the same level of responsibility if they're in a good family. They don't have to worry, like say it's a 6-month-old kid. And I know there's exceptions to this, and I'm not trying to shame anybody about this or anything like that either. But if you're a 6-month-old kid, You know, you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. Your parents have to worry about that, or the adults around you. It's their job to worry about that. If some, robber breaks into the house, they probably won't even understand what's going on. They might be a little bit scared and startled because loud noises, who knows what's going on. But, there's a certain amount of responsibility that makes us need those scripts for autopilot to get through our day. This is just me, kind of thinking about it. I could be completely wrong on this. But I do think that sometimes, whether it's those responsibilities, whether it's because it also turns into a habit, we can very quickly get into these habits of running the script before we even realize we're running the script. And it is important to take moments away from constantly worrying about those responsibilities, constantly worrying, you can't, as we were talking about earlier, yes, there need to be times you do deep work. Yes, there needs to be times that you're worrying about, putting a roof over your head, putting in, food on the table. But if you do that 24/7, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna lose your wonder for the world. That phrase, do you live to work or do you work to live? Becomes a very, very important thing. So I think if we don't, when it's the biblical passages that talk about be the little child, I think that's a huge part of it, of take that moment and learn. And that's another thing I think with kids too, is they know they've got to learn. They know almost nothing about the world. So they're always awake to the world and the possibilities. Yeah, they are not as familiar with the threats, but they're also not as familiar with the beauties. And, we've got to remind ourselves, yeah, I got to take a step back and say, I don't know everything. I need to learn. I need to observe. And also, I may be worried about so much about the threats that I forget to keep my eye open for the beauty. But if as an adult, I can keep my eye open for the beauty, I can appreciate it in a way that I might not have been able to appreciate it as a kid. So there's definitely something beautiful about being a kid, but is also something immature about, there's a reason we use the word maturity and immaturity. There's an immaturity to being a kid too, that there are certain they can't understand, both good and bad, that we can understand as adults, which we can either use to sabotage our experience of the world or enhance it.
Wow, great answers.
I love what Holly shared. Holly, you always are so insightful and you always share so many spectacular things. One thing, and I do agree about the worries. The other thing that I think is they don't have the memory bank that an adult has of disappointment. They have yet to experience, and if they did experience that letdown, it might have not been paired with shame, and they have a different perception of it, especially if you're able to cheer them up and go, well, that's okay. Maybe sometimes we lose the game, but that's okay. It allows us to do this and to have somebody there to reframe their experience. When you hear things along the lines of like, you deserve this, in that really shameful, judgy, impactful way, you start to take it on and you get disappointed to the point that there was, and I'm pretty sure I've shared this with a number of you, or rewind to the very beginning of the Triple T episodes and you'll hear all of my fear of the future. And TJ has definitely reframed that. Elijah had shared great insights about that, about the unknown. And that way you have a different perception. And it's really taken quite a bit of chipping away at that old thought pattern of to be afraid of this, so that when they get to experience something, they experience it with a different level of curiosity because they don't know to experience it with disappointment or like waiting for the other shoe to drop, that sting. And now you have a memory bank. So now when you're experiencing something, you hear things like too good to be true, or waiting for the other shoe to drop, or it's only a matter of time, like all these limiting stories of somebody else who experienced disappointment. They framed it in that way. And then they're like, here, this is really shitty. Take it. And they share it with you. And then you're like, oh, this is really shitty. And then you take it on. So that was another thought that came up to me. Hopefully I answered your question, which was very good.
again, I just threw it out there. And I think, like I said, I think kids are always innocent. Again, they're innocent. Maybe not immature, but they're innocent. And they start categorizing things as good and bad, familiar and unfamiliar. But like I said, they haven't developed because I get that a lot, Holly. Oh, that's why kids are always happy because they don't have any responsibilities, and and they don't have to go to work. And so happy, They said, life be joyous, and again, not having fun doing what you're doing, you ain't doing it right. So, but the idea, I'm not doing what you said, Holly. I just, again, but adults, he said, kids smile 3 times more than adults. Always
Yes.
happy. Again, is it A that causes B or B that causes A? I don't know. Like I said, I just put it out there as that, it was just another little piece of trying to understand, that the wonder of being a child. When you break patterns, you don't follow the script with other people. They wake up and they're a lot nicer to deal with. You walk into Dunkin' Donuts and they're like they're entranced. They've been hearing, "Can I have a coffee and a donut? Can I have a coffee and a donut? Can I have a coffee?" And you walk out, "Can I help you? Yeah, can I get a Whopper with cheese, a large fry, and a chocolate shake?" And they perk up, they shake their head like they're waking up, and they're like, "Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, let's go get one." But I find when you break pattern, not you don't give a tip. People ask me how I'm doing. Oh, living the dream. They laugh. Or if I was doing any better, it might be illegal. I'm not giving the typical answer. It's an atypical answer. And they wake up, break out of autopilot. And I think they're a lot happier. At least that's how I see it.
And I was going to ask our amazing research guru, Holly, what is the average amount of times that a kid hears the word no by the time I don't remember where they said it. And on average, how many times do children laugh a day versus adults? And one of the things that I teach my clients and students, be more childlike, be more curious, see the sees, hear the hears, feel the feels, taste the tastes, try new stuff, get out of your comfort zone. You think about it, how happy are kids? Kids don't even really know what their comfort zone is. They're just out there doing stuff. And most of them don't know what to be afraid of until they're told that it's scary and they need to be afraid. And they're like, oh, okay. And that's where a lot of those stories come from. Mark.
I was at the mall one time. It was an open air mall, and this pregnant woman was on the bench, and she had a little 2-year-old running around. And he like grabbed her sandal, threw it, and ran after it, laughing, giggling, running around. And and she looked at me. She said, "Yeah, I never believed in the terrible twos until I had a 2-year-old." So we laughed about that. And I said, "What's his name?" She said, "Johnny." "Oh, Johnny, come over here." And I gave him a high five. And he went back to running around and playing, and not not looking around for any not being on alert for anything. He was just having fun, And then Dad came out of the shop. She was 11 months pregnant. Well, now 9 months pregnant. She was getting off the bench, and I was like, "Bye, Johnny, bye," And he sees my hand up, and he runs right over to me, and he gives me a high five. And I looked at him. I said, "Johnny," I said, "no fear." And he looked at me like, I guarantee he went back to his mom and said, Mommy, what's fear? I said, what's fear? Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't jump off there. You're gonna break your arm. Don't eat that. You're gonna poison yourself. You're gonna die. We teach children fear.
Yes.
Fear is taught. Okay. Imagine if you could raise a child with good caution, safety habits, caution, but you never taught them fear. And combine that with a child's natural relentlessness and fearlessness, what could that child become?
I am so glad you brought that up. We were discussing this just the other day, and it goes back to something that I'd heard about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that a lot of today's kids don't understand real fear and pain. They've been wrapped in bubble wrap and knee pads and elbow pads and helmets and rubber playgrounds and all the above. And just the other day, a friend of mine and I were at an event that had one of those suspended, almost looks like a Christmas tree swing that you would sit on and it would spin around almost like a merry-go-round flat platform. And it was welded so that it wouldn't move anymore. And I brought up the realization that what you don't see in schools as much anymore, kids with casts and Band-Aids and black eyes, because we've wrapped them in we had the 3-story silver metal slide that you'd need a skin graft in the summertime if you made the mistake and you were dumb enough to slide down it in shorts. And we had the chain swings that were attached to the same 3-story high slide that you could actually swing back and forth almost higher than the school. And we had the actual monkey bars made of steel, and underneath it was dirt. And yeah, we learned some stuff hurts. Dodgeball. You learned who your enemies were. And you also learned who was not going to make it in the tribe. Some of you finished the game. They knew you got hit because you actually had the pattern of the red ball. Your face smelled like the red ball and had the pattern of the red ball because you ate it. And dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge, yes. And we had in the gym the ropes that were attached to the ceiling that you were supposed to climb as high as you could, protected by a foam mat about this thick that was put underneath the rope. And we got blisters and rope burns and all that stuff. And like you said, back then, we were curious about everything. We were in awe of everything. And we weren't nearly as allergic to everything. And I don't think we were as opinionated, because that was also Yeah, I can see by some of the reactions here, like, no. And so one of the things that I've had to work with some young adults from 10 on up that were dealing with anxiety, and I'm like, when you're dealing with heavy anxiety at 12, that's a, I'm going to throw it, and I told the parents that you can't be on the call with them. It will be recorded, but this is between me and the kid. If I hear of anything that I'm thinking has them in danger, I will let you know. And I hate to say it, about 80% of the time, it was family issues. And they were very pleased when the child was doing much better. And I couldn't say, yeah, well, y'all need to up your parental game and back off and not be a helicopter parent, blah, 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 blah. But instead, I gave the kid the tools to learn how to deal with it, because I let the kids know when you turn 18, you get out of the house, life will still be a challenge. So let's learn how to deal with expectations and things of this nature. Holly.
I think Lenora had her hand up first. Go ahead, Lenora.
Okay.
Okay, just some thoughts that are coming to my mind is, I mean, this is an age-old discussion, basically. I'm kind of going back to, back in the old days of school with the, Jean-Jacques Rousseau versus, Thomas Hobbes, right? I think, yeah. And then John Locke, which was kind of the idea of, one theory is man is born free and everywhere he's in chains. Another one is no, every man is born as a blank slate. And another theory is the noble savage theory that men are born evil, well, maybe not evil, but selfish and wild, and society tames them. And I will say, I think that my personal theory with all this, and I think that parents can be extremely important in this whole process. I don't tend to agree with any of those three theories. I think there's truth in all of them, and there's faults in all of them. Having hung around a lot of children, a lot of children come into this world, I happen to believe in previous lives, that sort of thing, come in with definite personalities. And it's not just, I think some of that comes from maybe their spirits, but maybe some of that also comes from their biology. So like, for instance, I know some kids all in the same family, all with the same parents. Granted, being the oldest or the youngest makes a difference. I'm sure you're treated differently. But I'll look at him and I'll say, this kid is terrified, and they've been terrified since they were 2 months old. This kid is courageous and has been courageous since they were 2 months old. And I look at him, and being a face reader, I know we don't read them to their faces, but I'll look at it and say, well, of course this kid's terrified. They're a water personality.
Yep.
So a lot of that's going to be their genetics. A lot of that. So, also, one of the thoughts that comes to me a lot is there's a show called Would I Lie to You? I've probably quoted this before. I'll get this quote wrong, I'm sure, but it basically says, some kids are timorous and some kids are reckless. And the problem is that warnings are calibrated to save the lives of reckless children. And as a result, the timorous live in perpetual terror. And I think that is such a summary of basically my entire childhood. But you could do your best to tailor it to the individual child. I mean, I will say, like, there's nothing like the pure joy of, a 2-year-old that hasn't, I think that, they haven't been shamed about it. They have that pure joy. There's nothing like the pure joy of seeing the world through a 2-year-old's eyes. But also, if you've ever been on the receiving end of their anger or their selfishness, it's also pure selfishness, pure anger, so I think that it's a balance. I'm kind of going a little bit to Peterson, like, the chaos versus the structure. You know, are we I think it's that balance of, you got to give people space to be creative, space to be who they are, space to experience the world. But at the same time, if they're not learning that, yes, there actually are things that you can do that can hurt other people. Yes, you actually do need to consider the positions of other people, and, you know, not do things that are going to hurt other people, that sort of thing. And then also, you know, if we were to swap it back and say, okay, we're going to calibrate all warnings for the timorists, then the reckless, you know, are going to get hurt. So, you know, it's a balancing act, I think. And I think there's a bunch of things that kind of play into all of this. So I don't know if it's a simple answer, but it's a very interesting discussion.
Great answer, as always. Lenora, you had your hand up? Yep.
I love that she had shared that, because I was definitely raised to be more fearful, more cautious, more like wrap yourself in bubble wrap and don't do scary things, and you can't do that, you're not strong enough, da, 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 da. And I hated dodgeball. I know this comes as a shock to all of you, but yeah, no. Definitely turned away from a lot of competitive things.
Fran.
Now, I may be off topic because I've only just popped in, but coming here this morning, my morning, I've realized it's really come home to me what walking, talking miracles we all are. You know, the chances that it took to get you here now on the planet, on this show, meeting each other. What are the chances? Why are we not taking more risks? We are just being here is living proof that we are so amazing. So to place limitations and fears on ourselves, why aren't we all out changing the world to fit our idea of what it should be like? And when I'm in that space of understanding what an absolute miracle it is that I'm me, that I'm here, that I'm now, what incredible, unbelievable statistics stacked up so that this happened here now, I think, well, why not? And the question of why not is more what we should be asking ourselves than anything else. That's my bit.
Well, and I got a quick question for you, Fran. Have you heard the song by Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying?
What a wonderful, wonderful.
If you haven't heard it, please listen to it. And I'm going to give you a real quick paraphrase for the rest of the people as well. It's a song about a guy who finds out that he has very short time to live. Got the bad news. And he's talking about it, and this person goes, well, how'd you take it, man? What'd you do? And he said, I went skydiving. I went, let's see, what is it? I went skydiving. Rode a bull. Just all these things. And he goes, I wish that you could learn to feel what it's like to live like you were dying. I became the friend a friend would want to have.
Rocky Mountain climbing.
Rocky Mountain climb. Yeah, I went skydiving, went Rocky Mountain climbing, went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu.
Yep.
And yeah, that's why Ken Guzzo's protocol for near-death experience is so effective, because when you come out of that and you're like, wow. And I love you, Mom. My mom only knows probably about half of the close calls I've made it through. She knows some of them. And the fact that I've made it through some of the stuff where I don't know how I made it. My guardian angel, I'm pretty sure I'm like on my third guardian angel, because my first one had to be like, I'm stressed out. I need help here. Yeah. So the fact that I'm here being able to have this conversation with you guys, yes. I don't know how I made it here, but I'm sure glad I did. And Mark, you were showing something a little on the on a unusual curvature, we'll
Turned a
call it.
bicycle into a catapult. Shattered the elbow.
Yeah.
It happened. Survived.
Right?
A lot smarter about riding bikes. Too big for me.
Yeah. And we're still here.
I said, thank goodness that the both of you are still here. Just saying.
And I was raised, thank you, Mom, by the way. Thank you, Mom. I was raised in a village of 187 people in farmland, Minnesota, and it was get out of the house, and don't come back until the street lights come on. There was no cell phones. There was no bubble wrap. There was a bicycle that I put together that we put 8,000 miles on a day. And we had forts out in the middle of the woods that parents had no idea where they were, what they were, how they were. We had a gravel pit that was right behind my best friend's house. And we dug a tunnel, not at the top, in the middle, straight into the gravel, like way in. And we would go in there and hang out. And of course, now as an adult, I'm like, my guardian angel had to be losing their mind. I'm sure it took my guardian angel and all my friends, all the guardian angels in there going, okay, we're holding it up. All right, holding it up. Are they done yet? Give them a clue. Get them out of here. They're stubborn. They're enjoying. Okay, we're holding it up. Had no idea. If that would have collapsed, parents didn't know where we were. Had no idea we were doing stuff that dumb. And yet we made it.
So if you survived that, why aren't you even more magnificent? What a privilege to be here to take these crazy risks.
And Elijah, ever had to get your friend to sneak into your room, steal a pair of trousers and bring them to you so mom wouldn't see the gash on your knee? Yeah, and I also had to have a friend of mine clean out my my left heel because I ground off the meat down to the bone. I also had second and third degree burns on my stomach and my face that mom came home and I was upstairs hiding until I couldn't take the pain no more, and she had to take me into the hospital. And
I hope your mom's sitting with a glass of wine. Good heavens.
yeah, I'm surprised mom didn't drink. Dad did, but he was driving truck and stuff. And yeah, so love you, Mom. Like, love you.
Deserves to drink the whole vineyard dry.
Yeah, so all you parents out there that have had nightmares, talk to my mom. Yeah, love her. So, any other questions? Who's got a new topic or question or something we can chew on, unless you guys want to share horror stories and make all the parentals nervous?
It's time to share the crazy stories of what we might still be able to do. What
Still
are
to
our
come, you mean, Fran?
Say again?
Still to come, what we might be able to do?
Yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
right here, right now, what amazing, crazy things can we manifest
oh,
now?
okay. I see. My first thought was like, oh, we'll go skydiving. Such an easy solution, right? No. What things can we manifest? That's an amazing question. I love this, Fran. I would also like to share that Fran had once suggested to make a running list of all the ways that you feel good, of quite literally shifting your state. And it has been extraordinarily powerful since she had suggested that, because I do keep track of those things. So thank you, Miss Fran.
Thank you for sharing that one. That's a great plan.
Did you forget that you shared it? We got to rewind a couple episodes.
So
Well,
what's everybody's possibilities?
I
What's
think
your
it,
possibility, TJ? Now,
I think
mean,
it's, I was going to say, I think it ties right in with the upcoming new year, where everybody thinks they have to wait until January 1st to come up with a list of things they want to accomplish for the year. And I know a number of you that were on here January 1st of this year, when I challenged you all to buy a day planner and go to January 1st of 2025 and write a story of how your year went. What did you do? What did you accomplish? And then reverse engineer your year. Go backwards through the deal so that you can write down that by March 1st, I've done this. By April, I did this. By August, I accomplished this, to see if you're on track. And now with Fran's question, I think it fits perfectly in. Like, what do you want to do in 25? What do you want to accomplish? How would you like to live like you were dying?
and I think you can bring it down to daily miracles. And some days a miracle is getting out of bed. But some days it's so much more. And why not? And the more miracles you've got under your belt, the more you can do, because you can see you're already a miracle.
Yes. Holly.
Absolutely love this question of what can we manifest? What amazing things can we manifest? Are we going to manifest? A couple questions I've been kind of taking as the extra step when I'm done. So first, I just, as they say with brainstorming, the best thing to do is unedited, unfiltered, write down everything. You may get done and say, I don't want that. I don't want that. Ooh, I kind of do want that, but I don't know if I deserve that. Don't worry about any of that. Take all the judgment out, write everything down. But then you could go through a second time and say, okay, now is this really something I like? Is this something I really want? Is this something really useful? And what I've been kind of noticing is, we talked earlier about Halloween being the holiday for all the kids. And I'm just thinking, if I were in, 5th grade or maybe 2nd grade or something, and I was writing my manifestation list, what I put on that list, I want, mounds and mounds of candy. And then am I really with that manifesting, waking up the next day with a stomach ache? So the couple things, that I've been trying to think about is I've been kind of I keep using words like mature and immature. I don't mean these in judgmental ways. I just mean that they're phases of existence. But, a lot of my manifestation in the past has come from kind of an immature place of how can I make myself the most comfortable? How can I make myself the most cool? How can I make myself the most significant? All of these there's nothing wrong with it, but it is kind of I think there is a higher level that we can get to, a more meaningful level. And so, you know, like I said, vomit on the paper. There's nothing wrong with doing the occasional, hey, I'm going to have a day where I'm just going to, you know, manifest a pile of candy. There's nothing wrong with that. But if every day for the rest of my life, that's all I ever manifest, you know, that's not a meaningful life. So ask myself, you know, what meaning can I manifest in my life? What can I manifest that best contributes to my golden path? What can I manifest that best contributes to my growth and the growth of the people around me that I have been sent to serve? And more importantly, when I get the things that I manifest, how can I make the most meaning out of the things that the universe chooses to give me?
Great answer. As always. Mark.
And I did the exercise, but I couldn't have possibly anticipated the challenges I've been through in 2024, and highs, the lows, you know, the challenges with, you know, health, you know, but what's going to come out of it, 25, is a lot of great stories I can use to help people.
Yeah. And sometimes it's well, I've got the transition lines that go with it. So keep an eye on to see if you end up with yours. But we can, I've worked with clients that when we do future pacing or pre-planning, they get so nervous. Well, but what if it doesn't work out? Then you reassess, you replan, you left turn, you do what you have to. But too many people that I know are on absolutely straight autopilot. And one of the great memes that I saw for New Year's is don't write the same information on 365 pages and call it a story. You have to live. And I want to share this real quick. I see two hands up, but in the little village that I grew up in, Grandpa Hugh McCorder, God bless him, had a story for everything. He'd been everywhere. He'd done everything. Just ask him. And when I was a kid, I was sitting with him and he had totally entranced in one of his stories, and he stopped about halfway through and he said, you know, I know that the people in town make fun of my stories, but when you get to be my age, if you can't talk about the things that you've done in your life, all you can do is gossip about your neighbors. So live a life with so many stories that you have plenty of stories to tell people. And I got to get up at his funeral and tell that, and everybody was like, yep, that was Hugh. Grandpa Hugh always had a good story. Fran.
Okay, well, I wanted to come up with how powerful manifestors we are. And, you know, do be careful of what you wish for, because chances are you're going to get it. And, you know, there's the proverb of may you live, or the curse of may you live in interesting times. Well, what's the alternative? To live in boring times? Do you really want that? And, you know, what makes your heart sing? I want everybody, please, to start thinking about what makes your heart sing. And there's many, many things. And when you are living in a place where your heart is singing, where the joy is coming from the inside, not only is it your best makeup, much better than anything you can paint on your face, because you immediately become instantly attractive to everyone.
Yes.
But it actually pulls everything that you didn't know you wanted in a good way towards you. And my last little bit is grow old disgracefully.
Yes.
I love that you've said that, Fran. And you've said that a number of times. And it always makes me think of the quote where it says, you know, you're not supposed to go into the grave in like a perfectly preserved body. You want to be sliding in as if you're going in for a home run and like, man, what a great ride.
Yeah.
And that I really like. The other thing that somebody had said, especially when you're future pacing people and they're thinking, what if I don't get it? Oh my God, I was like the queen of that kingdom for a very long time, finally was dethroned from there. And it's true. From the best that I could tell, it will never look like however picture that you come up with. It might just be a very small shot of it, but everything else is going around, and however it appears is never going to be like what you think that it's going to be. It just won't. Your conscious mind is only designed to come up with something, even though everything comes from the higher self, subconscious, other factors that are going on. But your conscious mind can't figure that out, so it struggles really with it. If you can ask your conscious mind to just sit down and have a cup of tea, and Elijah always says something, I can't think of it right now. Brain farting. But to not be emotionally charged to it, to not be overly attached to it, to just put it out there, and then it's in the universe, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. There was another point and I lost it. I'm sorry, in my tangent of enthusiasm. But those are my thoughts right now.
One of the other things that I tell everybody, time's going to pass anyway. Whether you're afraid or happy, if you're sitting or active, time's going to pass. Fit as much as possible into it. Fran.
I just made a note to myself, and I looked at my note that I hadn't noticed. I wrote down the word joyful, and I accidentally drew crosshairs in the middle in the O. So, you know, when you got joyful in your crosshairs, you are manifesting at the best. Get on target, get that joyful in your crosshairs, get that singing heart, because that's what's going to bring everything you desire, all the manifests that you thought you couldn't achieve. If you are in a state of joyfulness all the time, or as much time as you can, it's just going to suck it towards you.
Yes.
I should be listening to.
Mark.
Just got a download from wherever, and I was like, Fran talking, I was an image of a carousel. Beautiful thing. It's, this is life. Ride the horses, you can take the risk, you can reach out, you can try to go for that brass ring. The most important thing is enjoy the ride, enjoy the music of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And, ride is to the end of the ride. Came to me.
Yeah. Great metaphor. And it also reminded me of a story that Wayne Dyer told about a blind old lady in an old folks home that was being moved from one room to another. And she always had her hair perfectly coiffed and everything for her limited sight. Was she completely blind or limited sight? Anyhow, the young lady that worked there was bringing her to her new room and said, "Oh, it's not completely done yet." And the little old lady said, "It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect." And she said, "Well, you haven't even seen it yet." She goes, "I don't have to see it. If my mind knows that it's perfect, it is." because that's how she looked at life. Whatever is out there was amazing, was perfect, was awesome. She could look at a field and only see the flowers. And even the weeds had flowers on them. So there's the saying, you can either be angry because the rose bushes have thorns, or you can be thankful that the thorn bushes have roses. It's the same bush. It's up to you how you want to feel about it. Michael.
Kind of like the cartoon of the guy riding the train, and one guy's blind and the other one's not, and the blind guy's like, man, it's so beautiful, got all this stuff going on, and the other guy's, what are you talking about? It's all your perception.
Yeah.
Good job.
Or the other two guys on the train where it's going right by the mountainside, and the one guy on the mountainside's looking, going, this is terrible. The other guy's going, this is beautiful. Look at the scenery.
That's the cartoon I was looking in my head. I'm like, what is it? Where is it? I was going to Google it really quick.
Yeah. And especially if there's empty seats, the guy on the side with the rocks, all you got to do is get up and move over to the pretty side. The train is going to keep rolling anyway.
Or the blind guy and the deaf guy on the train that meet, and the blind guy says hello and the deaf guy waves, and they both think that each other are incredibly rude.
Yes,
Because they
right?
can't.
Okay, kids, we got 8 minis left. How are we going to close out this another amazing night of information and sharing?
I didn't know if Mike still had something to share. Oh, okay.
He's just waving at everybody. He's like,
I put a story in the chat, and it was similar to the one TJ was just sharing about the woman. In my mind, it's beautiful, and I think this is, this is such a us story, because there are so many times we absolutely love showing up for other people and just taking care of what they're wanting, and it's not in a demeaning way. It's in such a kind, gentle, like the kind that makes you reflect and see, like, this is the beauty of humanity. Oh my God. Yes, please. That is what I would love to experience every single day. And in this story, this was somebody who had picked somebody up from their cab ride. And it made me think a little bit about what Mark had been sharing was, it's about the moments. It's not always about getting to this goal of wanting to achieve this and wanting to achieve that. It's the stories and the experiences that we have that create our life as a whole. And in this one, it's just a really lovely one. So I think I might like it.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you guys now. We have, well, as of tonight, we'll only have 6 Tuesdays left. And the last Tuesday of the year is on the 31st. Yeah, so basically 6 left. What can we do for the next 6? And what can we do to prepare ourselves for 2025? I've got students and clients that all have their 3 journals that they're working on for their person, their tribe, their streams of income. And what else can we do to encourage people, to push people to, like you say, live while they're alive? Because I know a lot of people that are just idling while they're alive. Fran.
I'd like to challenge everybody to at least have a weekly miracle that they come back and share a little bit of it. And preferably a daily miracle. I want a miracle challenge for the rest of the year so that we actually start 2025 in a space of miracles.
And that fits right in with the daily planner protocol that I especially have my people who are dealing with depression and anxiety do, where at the end of the night you can write down your wins for the day, your miracles for the day, your happy thoughts for the day, so that you train this muscle up here to look for and remember the good stuff.
And notice the little stuff, because
Yes.
the little stuff leads to the big stuff.
It does.
Flower
100%.
on the weed. The flower on the weed is a miracle.
Yeah. Especially when you take a close look at some of them. Like the purple thistle flowers that people are like, thistles are weeds. But man, you look at them and some of the photographs, they are absolutely extraordinarily beautiful. Mark.
I was just thinking something a little bit more. If we do join TJ on the 31st to challenge everybody to dress up with funny hats and light up glasses. It says 25 and can have our own little New Year's Eve party on that day.
Well, it's also my wife's birthday. She's a New Year's Eve baby. So I'll have to see what her plans are. I'm not sure what my day will consist of. Hopefully she'll be kind enough to let me take a couple of hours to spend with you guys. But I like go
Would
ahead.
she grace us with her presence for a moment to say hello on her birthday?
I'm glad you brought that up. That is a wonderful idea. Thank you. I will start prepping her for that now. So she's got 6 weeks to try and come up with an excuse. Did I just say that? That wasn't very positive, was it? Let's manifest a better outcome. Yes. So, yeah, no, I like that idea. I think we should all, for fun, on the 31st, we should all dress up and have some fun together before we disperse and go with family and friends to bring in the new year. Fran will be like, I am in the new year. Here's what it looks like. Yay!
You survived.
Yes. Again.
Don't worry about tomorrow. It's already here.
Yes. And I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that up quick. I heard something, and I've been telling my clients and my students this a lot. What is the one absolute constant for all of us in tomorrow? You will be there. You are the one constant. You've been the one constant in tomorrow since the day you were born. Friends and family come and go. Jobs come and go. Happiness comes and goes. Sadness comes and goes. But tomorrow you will be the one person that is there again. Who do you want to be tomorrow? And what can you do today to make sure that it's easier for that person tomorrow? I love the little idea of what can you do for your person tomorrow? Like if you drink coffee the night before, set everything out intentionally like a present. And when you get up in the morning, you thank the person that set that out for you. That night, you're like, here, this is for you because I love you. In the morning, you come out and you go, ah, thank you. Because you can. Because you are the one constant in tomorrow until you're not. And with that, I guess that's the final thought, because it's time for me to, unfortunately, again, tell you all, thank you for spending your time here, your precious commodity that I cannot give back, and sharing it with this platform for people we don't even know that might find it tomorrow or next week or next year, who knows. But I couldn't do it without you guys. I'd just be rambling on. So thank you for the feedback, the love, the everything. I love you all. And for those of you on YouTube, love you, Mom. And I will see your smiling faces in 7 more days for Triple T 152. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.
Thank you, everyone. Awesome one,
everybody.
TJ.